Hello and welcome to the Guardian Football Weekly. How many England fans before this game thought, I'd prefer Spain? We could beat Spain. Going to be tricky if they play like that again. Luis de la Fuente's men were brilliant. They kept the ball, they attacked with pace, and the French had no answers. Yamal booted in the thigh by Luca Digne. Oyarzabal with an unstoppable penalty. In the second half, almost glorious touch to Pedro Porro. He set himself and finished superbly. The French midfield was possibly the weak link going into this tournament, and so it proved. Olmo, Fabian Ruiz and Rodri just too good. We waited for the French onslaught, but it never came. That incredible forward line completely blunt. And then we look ahead to tomorrow, the second place playoff between England and Argentina. Who's going to be right back? Is Declan okay? Under a roof feels good. Is the ref mates with Messi? Let the conspiracies begin. We address a fair bit of criticism we got from you lot after the England-Norway pod. Trevor Brooking voice, we're not positive enough. Is we were a bit tired a good enough excuse? Also today, FIFA confirm a 30-minute half-time at the World Cup final. That is a lot of taking penalties against the mascot. Might there be a 64-team World Cup as well? We'll answer your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today with me in New York, Barry Glendenning, welcome.
Hi, Max.
Hello, John Brewin.
Hello.
And in Paris, quel dommage, je suis désolé. Philippe Auclair, bonjour, ça va?
Bonsoir, ça va pas du tout, pas du tout.
Ouais, exactement. Nigel says, can you just get Philippe to talk about his favourite cheeses again? I don't want to hear him sad. Tombo says, is this what happens when French people show up to work on Bastille Day? Before we get the panel's thoughts, I caught up with Sid Lowe after the full-time whistle. Sid Lowe sitting cross-legged on the floor. Spain were good, weren't they?
Yes, they did look good, and they look very Spain-like. I think there's a really interesting kind of tactical switch that has happened with Spain, which I think is very significant. But yeah, they were Spain the way they wanted to be today, and this was the way. If they were going to beat France, this was the way it was going to have to be. You know, take the ball off them and don't let them play. Don't let the front four really get hold of the ball and go at them.
Yeah, the midfield were amazing. They, like you said, they just kept the ball so brilliantly.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to sort of bore you with this, and I don't want to bore myself with it really, but I think one of the things that's interesting is when they won the Euros 2 years ago, we talked a lot about how Luis de la Fuente had given a twist to Spain's style. You know, we talked about tiki-taka as being sterile, 1,000 passes were not really happening. And we talked about how he'd shaken that style up basically by having the two wingers, Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal, being very, very direct, being prepared to go longer. And this, in a way, I was going to use the word regression, but regression feels like a very unfair word because it sounds very loaded. But this, in a way, was a return to the kind of the Spain before that twist. Partly, of course, because Nico Williams has been injured, because they've been playing Alex Baena on the wing rather than an out-and-out winger, someone who'll come inside and play. Partly because Lamine Yamal has not quite found his place in this tournament, although I would argue that he's played better than his critics say. And I think also because of the opponent. And I think all the way through this tournament, we've seen a manager that's been prepared to tweak things because of the opponent more than others. And I haven't got this in front of me, I'm afraid, Max. And I don't know if you've got somewhere you can find this, but I want to see Mikel Oyarzabal's heat map today. Because this was the number 9 who played right in midfield, added an extra body in there, loads and loads of the ball. And I think it really was today a very conscious thing of saying, we're calm, we're in control, we keep hold of this. That's how you beat these guys. You don't let them run the counterattacks on you. You don't allow them to have space to go into. And I thought that once, even after the first goal, I thought Spain were basically safe. But once they got the second, I had absolutely no doubt at all.
Yeah, a shout for Pedro Porro, who looks to be one of the most popular players in that squad.
Yeah, everyone loves him, and he's funny. He's entertaining. He's one of these guys where we had him yesterday in the mix zone, which was a mad scramble. But he's entertaining in those kind of environments. I think he quite likes the idea of sort of seeing a group of journalists sort of scrambling and fighting and trying to get a word from him. And he plays with you. And he delivered a wonderful line yesterday, which of course has been borne out brilliantly today, because we asked about, you know, that thing of when you're a fullback, of where the balance lies, and you're kind of playing who blinks first when you've got a really great winger. Do you try and attack, not just to attack, but also to force them back, you know, to make them think, oh shit, I better go with my winger? Or do you think, hang on a minute, this guy's killing Mbappe, I'm not going anywhere, I'm waiting here, where's the balance? And he said, well, it depends on the game really. He said, if you look at the last game with Jeremy Doku, I was basically following him all game long. I only left once. And that was our goal. And I just thought, well played, sir. And that's almost exactly what happened today as well.
Yeah, that's great. And like they must be feeling confident now. Like, you know, they've got an extra day's rest, which makes a massive difference. And they are better than either England or Argentina.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they won't say, we're better than these two. I don't even think they will say what they felt, which was that if you beat France, you win the World Cup. But the winners of the World Cup came out of this. I don't necessarily want to ascribe to them an absolutely cast iron belief that the winners of this game would win the World Cup, but I think they felt that. But one of the other things that's been interesting with Spain in terms of the messaging throughout this tournament is a willingness to embrace the idea that they're favourites. Most managers run a mile when you say, "Oh, favourites, no, no, no." Now, obviously, Luis de la Fuente has done the cliched thing of saying, "Well, being favourites doesn't mean anything," and people say that, and it's not the point. But all the way through, they've kind of said, "Well, why not?" And Luis de la Fuente has been using this line. I'm not sure now, Max, whether it's the last 3 rounds since the quarters, or he's only been since before the quarters, if he's only been using it since after the quarters. But he's used a line which comes from who does it come from? I think it comes from a comedian, and the line is "y si si," and because in Spanish, yes and if are the same word, "si," although it's pronounced slightly different. So, and if yes, like could it be, and why not? And what if? What if we could actually do it? And all the way through the tournament, they've talked from a place of confidence. In fact, one of the few things that irritated Luis de la Fuente earlier in the tournament was the fact that around the Spain team, there was this negativity and he couldn't quite understand it. And I think it was going into the Uruguay game when he said the players are stung by the criticism. They can't understand it. And this will drive them a little bit because they're thinking, what's wrong with this lot? Why is everyone so negative about, the draw with Cape Verde, the victory over Saudi Arabia, the fact that they had to struggle a little bit to beat Uruguay, and that he felt something was coming. And I think all the way through this tournament, he's had a kind of calm that has said, I know we're in an all right place here. And obviously they're in a really quite a good place today.
Yeah, they are. Thanks, Sid. Have a safe journey home, and we'll see you in New York.
Nice one. See you in New York. Cheerio.
Cheers, Sid. Well, actually, just for the tape, that was me and Sid, but sort of like Memento or Inception. I haven't done that interview yet, so we don't know what Sid said.
I have a fair idea.
Spain good, France not as good, Barry. God, I don't know what your fearometer is like now, Barry, but I think I'd have rather played France. Spain were absolutely brilliant.
They were brilliant, and it's certainly their best performance of the tournament so far, and they were underdogs going into this game, but that was as comfortable a 2-0 win, I think, as you'll ever see. And Spain were brilliant, and not to take away anything from their performance, I was staggered by the number of French players who just didn't turn up. There were bad performances all over the pitch. Tchouameni, I think, was clearly not fit. Elise had a bad game. Adrien Rabiot got booked and was, I think he was hooked at half time, wasn't he? Because I think he was a little bit lucky not to get a second yellow. Lots of poor performances all over the pitch. I think France only had 2 shots on target. One of them an Mbappe shot from an almost impossibly tight angle that was saved by Simon. And they can have no complaints about the beat and dished out to them, because while the scoreline was 2-0 to Spain, that was a hammering.
Look, we all thought the midfield was the key, John, and we all sort of noticed, Fabian Ruiz, Olmo and Rodri against whichever two the French had. They just couldn't get the ball.
No, I think Real Madrid are going to be unhappy again, because Rodri could win the Ballon d'Or again, couldn't he? They're going to have to flounce out of the ceremony. He was fantastic. He was fantastic. And this game makes me... Do you think, as the game closed out, Didier Deschamps thought, I was right all along, that because they were undermanned in midfield... clearly, he didn't have players of the talent yet. When they went back to winning the World Cup, they had, Matuidi, Pogba, Griezmann would drop in there as well. And Spain just bossed midfield and controlled the game. And Mbappe, as he's called on Fox Soccer, was not a factor in the game. And the hero that we expected and have seen all tournament was not allowed to take any part in proceedings because Spain was so dominant. And let's have a word for Pedro Porro, who of course scored a goal, and Marc Cucurella, 2 players who've made their names by coming to the Premier League almost the hard way. Cucurella was a Barcelona kid that had to go to Brighton, and Porro went to Manchester City and has come round the other way, was over in Portugal, I think, and then goes to... And he has been a star of the tournament. He's been absolutely fantastic.
Spurs fans watching him, Spence and Romero, going, "What's that? What's this all about?
What is this?" Yes, and but Spurs have had a good World Cup.
I mean, Porro Philippe is one of those, just such a happy, smiley guy. Like, he looks like everybody completely loves him. Of course, he did score a goal, so they were happy with him. But his finish, was absolutely brilliant there.
No, it was magnificent, and I'm a bit surprised, of course, that Pedro Porro would have such a great World Cup, because the Pedro Porro I know and love is the Pedro Porro I see for Spurs. He's not quite the same kind of player, but there you go. Nothing to be. I absolutely. You can hear that I'm actually quite relaxed after that, because I don't think there's anything to be sorry about in terms of the way the game panned out. I'm regretful that we didn't see more from France, but if you remember, we were presenting that the group that France was in at the beginning, before the World Cup. We were doing our previews, and we were already talking about the fact that this French midfield was very shallow, I think is the word I used, and also that we had weaknesses at fullback. Well, at one point, when you meet absolutely superb opposition, as was the case with Spain, we saw that. But the degree of disorganization in that French team, a Didier Deschamps team, is something that I haven't seen many times. There was also, it was both a lack of discipline, a lack of organization, spatial organization, and a lack of despair. I was going to say, because when it came to about 65, 70 minutes, you thought there's still time. There's still time. Lucky to be 2-0 down, to be honest. But there's still time to show what this amazing front four can do. But, games are won in midfield. What can you say? And this one was won by the Spanish midfield. And Pedro Porro. We won't talk about the refereeing, Max.
What was wrong with the refereeing? I mean,
he was rubbish.
Was he?
He was awful. He made absolutely no difference whatsoever. And he was very, very poor, which is not a surprise to anybody who knows his past works. But it made absolutely zero difference. There is no defense for France to be used as we were robbed or anything like that. We were beaten fair and square. And we were beaten. We could have been beaten by far more than 2 goals. And it's a great disappointment. It was always going to be the game in which we would finally see how good that France team was, because of the level of the opposition. It's the first time they've met a opposition of that quality, and they failed. But the amazing thing is that they failed because of a lack of organisation. Which, again, when you think about the great Didier Deschamps teams, and there've been a few, organisation and discipline was part of it. And in this case, I mean, I was looking at the beginning. It was quite clear to me. Okay, that's a 4-4-1-1. Olise is just off. Mbappe sometimes staying on the same line, something dropping a little bit back when out of possession, and then the shape got completely lost. It's a bit like you're doing a mayonnaise, and you're pouring the oil, and it's fine, it's working okay, and at some point it starts to uncurdle, so to speak. And no matter how much oil you're putting or how fast you're whisking the whole bloody thing, it's not happening. And the mayonnaise on Bastille Day didn't work at all. It was really flat. It was just at the end of like a mess of mustard, yolk, and oil, but not mayonnaise. And it just didn't work. And to be honest, I was watching this obviously in France with a few friends. And they were all gasping and say, "Oh my goodness, do this, do this, do that." I said, "No, they can't. They can't. They don't worry. That's the way it is tonight. They won't be able to do it." It was very underwhelming and very disappointing. But again, well done to Spain for actually being better than I thought they would be. I mean, I don't know if you.
Yeah.
I remember for example, just put that in there, the performance against Uruguay, where they really, really struggled against a not very good team. and I didn't see them being pushed, to their limits by the French as the Uruguayans had done, that for me is a real disappointment, that there was absolutely no way we tested them properly, if I can use that kind of the Ian Wright we.
Sure, you can.
We didn't test them properly, and even in the last throws of the game when Ousmane Dembélé is shooting the ball, and it's just I could say the keeper has to catch it, but there was nothing really.
Yeah, John.
We didn't propose anything.
It reminded me of the Euro 2024 final. Remember Spain just held England, and also Deschamps' selection reminded me a little bit of that Southgate, where Southgate went against his instincts, and it felt like France were playing Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Morgan's Gibb White all together at once, just to see if it worked.
Gibbs White there?
What, for France?
No, but for England.
No, for England. But
this. There's always
this,
all the tens.
Yeah, there's always this instinct, isn't there, that like chuck them all in together and we'll.
But there is, Barry, that idea that we sort of thought about France before this, that if Dembele doesn't play well, it doesn't matter because Mbappe will turn up. If he doesn't turn up, it's all right because Barcola will, or Duo will, or Elise will, or Cherki will. And so for none of them to show, even if they weren't playing well, you sort of one of them will just do something.
Yeah, and normally it's Mbappe, and he didn't today. He caught an increasingly frustrated and forlorn figure as the match progressed. But I can't help but wonder if it will turn out that something happened behind the scenes, because it just seems remarkable to me that so many of them could have such an off day. But then Spain gave them very little space in behind in which to operate, and that's what France thrive on. But even when Barcola was having not a good game, he was replaced by Doué, and no sooner had Doué come on than he left Pedro Porro completely untracked and unmarked to score Spain's second goal. Game over. So I don't want to harp on about referees, but as someone with little or no skin in this game, I thought the ref was fine, and I'm curious to know what Philippe found so objectionable.
Objectionable, I would use that term. There were some strange decisions, like a reversal of a free kick, which was really weird, and to me was very much like VAR intervened when it shouldn't have intervened, saying you've made a mistake, it should be a different thing. I'm also, on a purely almost metaphysical plane, I'm really interested in the penalty, because as a friend of mine who is not French said, if Lamine Yamal had managed to get the ball and scored, the goal would have been chalked off.
Yeah.
And which I think is an interesting metaphysical point, because to be absolutely honest, it makes absolutely no difference to the game itself. Well, it was the first goal, so it was very important, obviously, but he was very poor, and there was a lot of play acting as well, which I didn't think was really lovely. But we can forget about that. That's in a way that's immaterial. Spain were by far the better team. It was probably the best performance we've seen by any team in the World Cup so far. That doesn't mean they're going to win the World Cup, but they were absolutely terrific. And so many of them had great games. But I'm amazed at the lack of communication between the French players and between the lines. And there was, every time, obviously, a French player had the ball, trying to build up play, there were 3-4 Spanish players who were there cutting the passing angles and on that player. Normally, you would be able, with a team which has got the kind of technical talent that France has, and normally with Didier Deschamps, the kind of tactical organization you're supposed to have, there would have been solutions. There were none. And time after time, even when they were challenging in 50-50s, if they won the ball, they lost it immediately afterwards. And when you see that, when that is happening, you don't stand a chance.
No. And actually, what's quite interesting, John, is that you sort of think, well, if one team has the ball, the other team will be able to break. But not only did Spain have the ball, but when they attacked, like you saw it for the Porro goal, like the touch from Olmo, the movement, and there was one move in the first half where, was it Olmo backheeled it to Yamal, and Oyarzabal had a chance that was blocked wide. Those little sort of combinations that Spain was so much better than France at.
I think at this point we have to say how good a coach is Luis de la Fuente, because he is
yet to lose a game at the Euros and a World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, and there was a point. I mean, when Spain were champions back in 2010, they had a pretty horrible run at World Cups, and then then they had Luis Enrique, who was a good manager for them, but he's managed to harness that team and say Lamine Yamal, who I still don't think is at his best. He's still clearly suffering the ill effects of the injury he had when playing for Barcelona, but he makes a contribution, and he made use of him. And that the Luca Dean foul was the reason that came about is Yamal's reading of the way the ball is going to fall, and he takes a whack, and it's a
Never
penalty.
touched him. Never touched him.
I mean, yeah,
that's a dead leg.
You could see Luca Dean's look at his face as like, oh no.
PSG's Luca Dean.
Yeah, well,
none of us knew that.
We found that out. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say about the referee that we talked about was his height.
Tiny little man.
Yeah. Yes.
And he forgot his spray. I mean, I suppose the silver lining, Philippe, is that Gianni got booed when he was on the screen, so that's good.
Did they show him on the screen, actually? Because there is FIFA has made the broadcasters sign up to a pledge that they have to show Gianni the First on screens like twice a game. They know he's going to be booed, like the hydration break. And did they show it in the stadium as well?
Well, there is talk that the cutaways to Gianni the First, and I really hope there isn't a second and a third one coming along the assembly line. There is talk, unconfirmed, that the cutaways are pre-recorded, and then dropped in, approved by some FIFA lackey, and then dropped in.
He cannot be shown being on his mobile phone because it happened, I think, in 2022, and so people cannot. He has to be shown as if he were looking intently, watching intently what's happening on the pitch. So you cannot possibly cut to him when he's looking at his mobile phone, which is probably about all the time because he's checking his Instagram account.
Well, he's sliding into iShowSpeed's DMs.
But he's always sat there benignly, surrounded by his Praetorian guard of football legends. I think what it is, and we did hear booing on the TV broadcast. I think they showed him. I think what it is that in the stadiums there are these huge screens, and supposedly if you're Barry and I went to the baseball the other day. Everything's about what's on the screen rather than what's on the pitch. So people can see the television pictures, and almost the football is something that's going on below. It's just there. It's just some guys running around. Yeah.
Anyway, look.
We were on the Jumbotron at the Met, and I think I was filling my vape.
Right. Kiss Cam took a turn.
I feel Gianni's pain. I would rather it was me.
Did they boo? Did they boo?
No.
You sitting next to Mohammed bin Salman and Carlos Puyol, where you fill up your vape juice. Anyway, look. I guess Deschamps. He did make the perfect metaphysical mayonnaise in 2018. So, there is a World Cup in recent history. And that'll do for part one. Part two, we'll look ahead to England-Argentina. Welcome to part two of the Guardian Football Weekly. So England play Argentina. It's nice being in the tournament, but when you have to think about the game, it's stressful. But Andy writes, according to the news, there's an outbreak of explosive diarrhea sweeping the US. If England are triumphant in the final, would Barry take a hit of infected lettuce to get out of doing the pod? Yeah, someone sent a message going, Mark Langdon had the right idea. It's the lettuce you need to avoid, Barry. Right, or it's the lettuce you need to take.
Right.
Will you take an emergency lettuce, break glass in case of England victory?
No, I'm not that against it.
Okay. We did get quite a lot of stick for how we covered the England-Norway game. I'm not that our analysis was wrong necessarily, but I think most England fans wanted at least a few minutes of celebrating the fact. And obviously we get criticism about everything all the time.
Yes.
But when it's... producer Joel said it wasn't an avalanche, but a moderate landslide. I guess a bit of self-reflection isn't a bad thing. I think it's fair to say, John, that we were lower energy when we recorded that pod because it was after the Argentina-Switzerland game than we were at full time when I was jumping all over the place.
Yeah, the tapes are there. The video evidence is there. Run it back and you'll see how delighted we were. Barry, less so.
Less so.
But...
packing up his belongings.
But the thing is, and this is a problem with England's games in the World Cup and Argentina too, they're a slog, aren't they? You go through a lot of emotions, and I suppose by the time we got to record, which was late in the evening after the Argentina game, which again was a slog.
And there's no harder job in the world than podcasting.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Exactly.
it's, we are. This is tougher than pulling
the
sheet metal,
this is
isn't
the
it?
coalface.
Yeah, it's really tough. But it was, the emotion had sort of, and we're trying to be analytical, attempting it at least. And the thing is, it wasn't a perfect England performance. And also, it's to do with perspective, isn't it? Colleagues of mine at the game had a very different view of it and how wonderful England were at defending and all the rest of it, and which is fine. But our view was one of
torture.
Well, yeah, of agony and quite a loud and hot. I mean, actually, this is making it sound even worse, isn't it?
A loud and hot pub.
A loud and hot pub. Oh God, it's so terrible.
With table service. It was
how we suffered. Yeah, and maybe that's the result of it.
It was hot. Baz?
Well, I mean, I got a ferocious amount of abuse on Instagram, and I don't think anyone's expecting me to be upbeat about an England win, but I would argue that my response to their performance was far less critical than that of Thomas Tuchel. So I stand over what I said. My concern would be that pandering to what I suspect is a very small minority of listeners who only want cheerleading, that's totally uncritical in the event of an England win, is a dangerous road to go down, not one I want to go down.
I understand that, but because there was just across YouTube and Spotify, like lots of comments, it wasn't like just a few. I just think we needed John probably to be like, Jude Bellingham might be having the best World Cup an Englishman has ever had, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
When we were talking about power ranking is a big thing these days.
Yeah. That's all we're doing.
We love a bit of power ranking, but as great World Cups from Englishmen go, obviously the canon would be Bobby Moore, Bobby Charlton from 1966. I don't think there's, but then we're thinking who has had. I mean, I would argue Lineker over 2 World Cups.
Yeah,
Bellingham is above Gaza in terms of performance, you might say. I'm prepared to argue that. Mm-hmm. And also Harry Kane has scored 6 goals as well. So we do have a lot to celebrate.
Yeah, we do.
We're just a bit downbeat. That's just the way we are.
It's a bit of age. Maybe
that might be it. Yeah.
How do you dispassionately see England-Argentina, Philippe?
Oh Jesus. It's very difficult for me to be dispassionate about Argentina because I want them to lose so badly.
Okay, so undispassionately then.
Take the passion out of it. I absolutely detest that Argentinian team, and I detest what I've seen from it from the beginning of the tournament.
I don't think you took the passion out of it just there, Philippe.
No, I honestly, and I think I speak for the world here, just the way that the world, when Belgium played the USA, I think the whole planet became Belgian. And I think against that, I've been talking to a lot of friends from very many countries about the game coming against England. And I think the planet is probably for the first time ever, when it comes to football, English. And I don't understand how anybody could stand that team anyway. I just... so I cannot be dispassionate about it, because what do they bring? I don't know. They bring sourness. They bring unsportsmanship. They bring loads of things that I don't want to see on a football pitch. And I don't know. I'm totally unobjective about them.
No.
So if I switch in objective terms, I would say that I stick to my prognosis before the World Cup, and I didn't know that England would play Argentina at the time, that for me that England team has got a genuine chance of getting to the final and win it. And that it's got the players for it, and more importantly than anything, it's got the manager for it. And I certainly hold Thomas Tuchel to be a far better manager than Scaloni. There's no doubt about that. So I don't want to up your hopes, but it's not just my best wishes which accompany you, Max, and John.
Yeah.
Maybe not you, Barry. But it's also my dispassionate attitude towards both teams. I do think England is a far superior team. And Argentina have been shown to be lacking in so many departments since the beginning of the tournament. They've got through, which is remarkable, and well done to them for doing so. The way they've gone through might not be maybe something that should be looked at a little bit more closely after the tournament, because Some of it was rather controversial, shall we say, and has been through every single round, which is one of the reasons why I'm not dispassionate about it. I do apologize, and I do not apologize to our Argentinian friends listening to this podcast. I'm sorry, you can get the doll, stick the pins in it, and it can have my face. I don't care. I just hope you lose.
Yeah, I mean, if the planet is behind England, it is conclusive proof. It is conclusive proof, Barry, that you may not be from this planet, I would say.
I'm surprised to hear that, and it has come as news to me because large segments of the planet that is inhabited by people I know and love are very much in the Argentina camp, but that's beside the point. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think it could be an absolute stonewall classic. It could have everything: goals, cards, penalties,
brutality,
and whoever instigates it, Philippe seems to suggest it will be the Argentinians. I think England will be well able for them and give as good as they get. And yeah, I think this could be one of the great World Cup games coming up.
John, I don't know if England are as nasty. I
send in Dan Burn.
Send in Dan Burn. I mean, is he nasty though? He's nice. I mean, they are the ultimate shithouses, right?
Yes.
The referee Ismail. It's still funny that the first yellow card they got in the Switzerland game ended up with a Swiss player being sent off. Absolutely sensational. Ismail El Fath has twice officiated matches in which Lionel Messi has won trophies. He's an MLS ref. Messi owns a stake in an MLS club. Well, Let the conspiracies begin.
Yes, Messi is MLS's meal ticket, which is slightly concerning if you are of a tinfoil persuasion. And this game, does it not send a shiver down? Just the thought of it is...
I was so happy until I had to talk about it.
It's one of those games where time will go very quickly and suddenly it's on.
Yeah.
And you're just watching it, and it's the nerves of... I'm sorry, I'm probably not making you feel any better.
No,
not
at all.
That's how it will be. And yeah, I mean, it's for Argentina, it obviously means an awful lot for political reasons, but also English. We have, in football terms, we certainly have certain rights to wrong from 1986. I'm not sure the 2002 victory, Beckham's penalty.
Well, that righted 98, didn't it?
They
cancelled
that cancelled that one. So we go back.
We go back to 86.
Go back to 86. Yeah.
40 years to right or wrong.
Long memories, the English,
Well, I said earlier in the tournament that it was when Barney had a right go at me for saying England were doing just enough to get through each round. And Argentina have also been doing just enough. And I predicted they will meet in the semi-final. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
I think England will beat them. I genuinely do think England have just a better players, better manager, and a better team ethic.
They're also England, aren't they? I mean, Messi's never played England before. I don't know if it is as simple because Messi was so quiet in that Switzerland game, and then went all right then. And he did it in another game as well. Was it another game? It was the Egypt game. It was the Egypt game, yeah.
He suddenly just woke up and went on this run. And
I wouldn't put Dan Burn on Messi.
No.
Not to start with, anyway.
You can't really man mark him, can you? You just have to sort of hope. I mean, that's...
It's having such a nice time until I had to think about this game.
Yeah.
Anyway, of course, we'll cover that tomorrow. It'd be weird if we didn't.
If England win, at least 66% of the New York-based panel will be incredibly chuffed, and there will be no complaints about a lack of enthusiasm.
Cheerleading, I have pom-poms. That'll be amazing. We'll have learnt a synchronised dance. Anyway,
we could get the Mets cheerleaders in.
We'll get whoever in.
We'll do some kiss cam.
Why not? That'll do for part 2. Part 3, we'll do any other business. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So our friend Gianni has been talking about expanding the World Cup.
Hey!
There we are. These are all issues we'll be examining after the World Cup, he told Swiss broadcaster Blue Sport. It's important to organise for the whole world, not just Europe and South America, effectively the entire world. Every nation should be allowed to dream of participating in the World Cup. You can see quality of the teams extremely high. It's getting higher and higher all over the world. If you don't give smaller countries a chance to participate, they lack the incentive to keep improving. Which is, he has a point, we have seen lovely stories of teams in this tournament that wouldn't necessarily be here. You do wonder what country, Philippe, would have the infrastructure. And like, it would be better in the group stages. We'd have to live together for another week, Barry, I guess.
We would have 2 teams qualifying from each group. And that in some way would be better than having this strange bastardized system in which you have the best third placed teams, which, to be honest, if you look at what they did in this tournament, well, they did nothing. So that would be the only possible bonus I could imagine for the 64 Team World Cup. It would, I mean, there would be quite interesting as to how many CONMEBOL South American teams would qualify. Probably all 10 of them would qualify, so that's great. So we won't have any qualifiers then. Well, that's a bit strange, but there you go. Other than that, it's crazy. It's just Gianni being Gianni. The idea has been mooted before, particularly for the 2030 World Cup, which is the centenary World Cup. And it was put forward by CONMEBOL, the South American Confederation, and by its president, Mr. Dominguez. Quite an interesting character. Well, interesting with loads of brackets. And the idea being that we should have as many teams as possible in that World Cup, and also because it's between 3 continents, South America, Africa with Morocco and Europe, we should open it to more teams. The extraordinary thing is that when Infantino is talking about every team should have a chance to participate in the World Cup, well, every team has a chance to participate in the World Cup already. It's called qualifying. And the other thing is if you take, for example, what happened to Cape Verde or Cabo Verde, whichever way you want to call them, they would have qualified even with the 32-team tournament. They were not there because of a 48-team tournament. They actually topped the group in which they beat Cameroon and Angola. And so it makes absolutely zero difference. It's complete bullshit. And we all know that. And I think even discussing it is having 64 teams coming out of a group of 211 member associations of FIFA, when some of these associations are, Anguilla, Montserrat, and San Marino, is actually an insult to intelligence. It makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, we don't know. I mean, I know we're in the post-truth age, and past the time where we actually care about things and things actually mean anything. But that's insane. That is absolutely insane. The only thing I can say is that 64, in a way, is better than 48 because 2 of each group qualify. That's okay. Now, would Gianni think of a system by which you could have a round of 64?
I'm sure he would. Yeah.
Why not? Why the heck not?
200.
I've no.
200.
And the Republic of Ireland still won't qualify.
Anyway, FIFA won a 30-minute half-time break during the final. Graham Ziegler from the Times reporting. Justin Bieber.
They don't
Madonna.
have the right to do that. Can we just say that they don't have the right to do that because that's a change to the laws of the game,
Right.
and that should be a decision taken by IFAB, and that FIFA does not have the right to take unilateral decisions like this. Okay. It's yet another scandal.
I don't know if you've been watching this World Cup, Philippe, but they seem to be taking quite a few unilateral decisions.
That is true, isn't
Yes,
it?
they have done that. That's very true, John. But I think that when the nail is already punched. I think in this particular case, we've already punched that nail in that door, or so many nails in that door. We have to push, to hammer them so hard that the door is going to break open. So we've got to remind everybody that, no, it's not fair, it's not on.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Justin Bieber, Madonna, Shakira, BTS, and others. When Cambridge United had half-time and was sponsored by Mick George's skips,
yes,
the youth team would just carry out an actual skip and kick balls into it. And half an hour of that would be good.
I was going to say, it's 2 cups of Bovril, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's bad. But
It's
anyway.
crazy.
Fraser says, my partner can't watch the game tomorrow night. She's on a 4-hour-long pelagic boat tour to go dolphin spotting in the North Sea that was booked months in advance. Surely this can't be topped for reasons to be unable to watch the match. That's your choice, Barry. It's infected lettuce or dolphin spotting in the North Sea.
That'd be quite chilly, wouldn't it?
It would be, yeah. Yeah.
I like who doesn't like a dolphin?
There you go. That's the T-shirt for this World Cup. That'll do for today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Philippe.
Thank you very much, Max.
Cheers, Baz.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Cheers.
Football Weekly is produced by Rory Simon and Matt Bentley-Viney. Our executive producer is Joel Grove. We'll be back tomorrow cheerleading, hopefully. Come on, England.